I think that most all of you know Tom Dunn and Dick Roberts. Tom was a longtime friend of the Ramapo College, board member for a long time and a chairman of the board of Ramapo College. Also, many of you don't know, he was also a professor teaching American legal history with
Mark Howenstein.
Mark Howenstein. Okay, thank you, Tom. Dick Roberts was a longtime faculty member of Ramapo College, and he was in charge of oversight of a lot of the building activities. So he's a good partner for Tom in this program for this evening. And now I'll turn it over to them without further ado to tell you more about that program.
Thank you, Charlie, for the generous introduction. This program came about because of COVID. We had originally scheduled, as part of the Annisfield 50th anniversary lecture series, to have an in-person program at the college on architecture to celebrate the November groundbreaking of the campus, the college buildings. But COVID put a hex on that. And when Charlie came looking for programs for the museum, I suggested to him that I could put this together. So I put together a program. Dick and I have been working every week on Thursday for the past 6. We've been working on this program, and we'd like to present it to you. I have to warn you that it is the length of a 4-credit course, and so please be patient with us. And of course,
there won't be a quiz at the end, right?
No, and of course, of course, if you leave with all the people here, we'll hardly know it. So we'll start. This is Ramapo College architecture from Birch Estate to college campus. As Charlie said, Dick was a founding staff member at the college, and in 1985, the college got the right to design, build, and finance. That was hardly a blessing, but they got the right to finance their buildings. And Dick was responsible for the planning, design, renovation, construction of the buildings until he retired as Associate Vice President of Administration and Finance in 2017. And I remember how proud he always was when he could tell us that the projects were on time and within the budget. So we'd like to show you how in the past 50 years, Ramapo evolved from a 21,200 square feet of space in a mansion, gatehouse, and garage to 1,825,000 square feet of buildings today, and it is still growing and evolving. We hope that when you're done, you will agree with Condé Nast Traveler that Ramapo is one of the 50 most beautiful campuses in the United States. William Hopper, a Dutch stonemason, built the small wing of this house in 1742. By 1798, his son Andrew had expanded it. The property remained in the Hopper family until 1864. It was expanded again in 1850 by the husband of Andrew Hopper's granddaughter, and it became what we know as the Hammermire House today. Andrew Hageman, Andrew Hopper's great-great-grandson, lost it to foreclosure in 1864. Theodore Hammermire, the president of the Sugar Trust, bought the former Hopper property in 1879 and developed it into a world-renowned dairy farm. This picture from 1895 shows the college land in the foreground, the row of saplings that that became the majestic trees of Ramapo Valley Road in the midground, and a gigantic 300-cow dairy barn at the base of the mountains, and the Hammermire House located in the mid-left. Hammermire actually used the stones from the old Hopper House for the foundation of the kitchen addition he made to the Hammermire House. In 1889, Hammermire also built a mansion on the property, which was occupied by his daughter. Stephen Birch Sr. purchased the land in 1917 in an auction sale to pay the debts of Theodore's widow, who died in 1914. The Birch Mansion was on the property, but the Hammermire House was not included. That remained in the Hammermire family until the 1990s, when it was sold to a private person, and then in 2000 to the college. The founder and president of Kennecott Copper, Birch established a Black Angus ranch on the property. After he died in 1942, it passed to his son, Stephen Birch Jr., and his daughter, Mary Marshall Rand Birch, who later became Mary Patrick. The Board of Trustees of the College of North Jersey had its first meeting in February 1969. The college didn't have ultimate control over the acquisition of the land or the design and construction of the buildings. The College Board was permitted to interview architects, but everything needed to be approved and regulated by the Board of Higher Education and the Department of Higher Education. For over a year, the trustees looked for a site and were rejected by local communities. They finally agreed to buy the Birch property in April 1970, persuaded by the past chair of the board, Bill Dater. The Board of Higher Education approved the sale shortly thereafter. The architects chosen by the state could not begin their design work until the site was selected. So the board first saw this planning in June 1970. The college and the Birch estate could not reach an agreement on the price for the property, so condemnation was necessary, and the college didn't get possession of the property until October 1970. Amazingly, in less than a year, the college opened one building for classes in September 1971. The most significant building on the Birch property was the mansion that today contains the president's office, the Office of Institutional Advancement, and other administrative offices. It was designed for Hammermire in the Queen Anne style by Dudley Newton, a prominent architect in Newport, Rhode Island. Newport also designed the big cow barn that I showed you and the Darlington Schoolhouse, given by Hammermire to the local school district in 1892. The mansion is said to be haunted because in 1900, Natalie Hammermire Mayer, Theodore's daughter, died of an accidental self-inflicted gunshot wound in a bedroom that is now the president's office. The arch was imported to the college from Hammermire's mansion in New York City. There were two other buildings, a garage and a gatehouse, that are currently being used by the college for the Padavano Commons and the admissions office. The York Room, shown on the upper right, was added to the mansion by Stephen Birch in about 1930, shortly before the death of his wife, Mary Rand Birch. In addition, after the dust settled in the controversy about the condemnation, Mary Birch Patrick gave the college the Laurel Van Horn House, a 1752 building, for President Potter's residence. President Potter moved out of that residence and it was used for a few years for various other purposes, and then the property was sold during President Scott's tenure. Of course, the mansion has been preserved and improved and remains the focal point of the campus today. During George Potter's years, the core of the college, the academic complex, the student life building, the College Park student apartments, G and H wings, the library, and the gymnasium were all opened. The ultimate design and construction of the initial core reflects certain realities that have impacted what the college is today. One of them was the speed of construction needed to meet the self-imposed deadline of September 1971. Another was the tensions among the board, whether this was to be a commuter college with a satellite in a more urban area or a residential college where people came from the urban areas for traditional college experience. The reality of Route 287, even though it was controversial and wasn't in existence when the college first opened, put artificial restraints on the size and shape of the college property. And another item is the availability of funds. $15 million was appropriated from the 1968 bond issue for the entire cost of starting the college, and $10.9 million from a 1971 bond issue, and the entire core by 1979 had cost $37 million. The first planners and architects for the college were Mahoney and Zvozek of Princeton and Suzaki, Dawson, and DeMay of Watertown, Massachusetts. Leo Mahoney, on the left, was born in 1932, and John Zvozek, with the checkered jacket, was born in 1930. Before they were hired to design the college, they had been the architects for several Catholic churches and the South Brunswick Public Library. Kenneth DeMay was also born in 1932. He's shown on the left in this picture. He joined Hideo Sasaki, the Dean of Landscape Architecture at the Harvard School of Design in 1960. DeMay is shown on the left in the picture, as I just said, and he later collaborated with Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, and others in the design of golf courses. But he also designed an award-winning science building at the University of Colorado at Boulder. Up to you, Dick.
As shown in the first master plan, the development of the college took into account 4 distinct topographies of the Birch estate. The yellow low and flatlands to the east and west of Route 202, primarily used for sports and recreation, parking, and landscape buffer, and most of the village student apartments. The tan plateau that is now the site of the mansion and main academic buildings, the new learning commons, and central heating and cooling plant. The light green 10 to 20% slope that today contains the Berry Center, some of the new learning commons, Bischoff and Mackin residence halls, and the Trustee Pavilion, and the dark green steep and heavily wooded area, which today includes most of the other housing on campus. The first master planning for buildings reflected the unique academic organization of the college. That is, multidisciplinary schools instead of traditional departments. So, for example, it contains plans for schools of American and International Studies, contemporary arts, human environment, theoretical and applied sciences, community services, also known as metropolitan studies, and computer science. The academic buildings, phases 1 and 2, Campus Life Building and the Building for Theoretical and Applied Science, were pretty much built as shown on this plan. The contemporary arts and library buildings were essentially flipped, and the other buildings shown on the plan were not built. Changes in curriculum, elimination of some schools, and addition of others, and fluctuating enrollment in the schools were the primary drivers of these modifications. The Adler Center for Nursing Excellence and the Anisfield School of Business are the most recent to reflect the curriculum changes and student interest. The original master plan contained a number of planning principles that for the most part the college has adhered to over the years and have been reinforced by subsequent plans. These include maintaining well-established rows of specimen trees rows and hedges, and stone walls of the original estate grounds, which give the academic core a character unique to the site. Providing a central academic core with academic buildings, prioritizing pedestrian circulation within the academic core, and minimizing conflicts between pedestrian and vehicular traffic. Preserving a green view of the campus from Route 202, which reinforces its semi-rural setting and is consonant with the scenery of neighboring communities in Northwest Bergen County, ensuring relative ease of walking to residential students to and from housing and the academic core. Each president had the benefit of a master plan update or assessment to help guide the future of the college and to reflect the president's priorities. President Potter, as Tom had mentioned, had Mahoney, Zavozic, and Sasaki. President Scott had a 1996 plan prepared by James Stewart Polshek and Partners of New York. Polshek was the dean of the Columbia University School of Architecture, and his plan formed the basis for the Berry Center, as well as the Bishop and Mackin residence halls. A 2001 plan, completed just before President Smith arrived, guided his decisions. The plan was done by GVQC Partners of Philadelphia, a firm originated by Robert Geddes, the longtime dean of the Princeton School of Architecture. It formed the basis for the addition of the Village Apartments and the Bradley Center. President Mercer had the 2013 plan done by Urban Strategies of Toronto. We'll discuss that in our finale. For each of these plans, I managed the process. We had a steering committee that included administrators, faculty, student leadership representatives, and others. The steering committee met frequently with the master planning consultant and its team of skilled experts. The master planning process usually took the better part of 2 academic years. During the process, there were a wide variety of opportunities for input from college and community stakeholders, interviews, visioning workshops, public open houses, and presentations. The plans are strategic in nature and take into account the institution's long-term vision for student enrollment, number of faculty and staff, academic programs, library and learning centers, communal gathering spaces, dining, student housing, student life, athletics, parking, and infrastructure, all in the context of the institution's site. The Board of Trustees and other leadership groups were all part of the process.
The core academic buildings were designed as an L-shaped building. A building systems approach was used. This means that the system involved pre-designed, easily assembled, integrated building components. The state could take advantages of the bids previously received for Stockton. It was a speedy way of putting the buildings in place. The buildings had 2 stories. Users of the building could walk on the second level from one end of A to the other end at E. They contained 148,500 square feet and a combination of classrooms, labs, and offices. At the groundbreaking, President Potter was projecting that the college would grow to 8,000 students. After a hectic year of construction, the A and B wings opened a week later than originally projected. 2/3 of the faculty found at opening that classrooms were basically ready, but it would be a while before the office furniture would make their offices usable. The C, D, and A wings opened in 1972. In addition to classrooms and offices, these wings contained biology, chemistry, and physics labs. Until they were completed, the School of Human Environment and TAS had their classes, offices, and labs at the Nike base near Camp Gull Mountain. The glass-walled buildings reflected the natural surroundings strikingly, and the architects received a number of design awards for the buildings. In its initial review, the board was concerned about the building systems approach, the cost of heating and cooling with the reflective glass, and the inoperable windows. The architects convinced them about the design. From the outset, the needs of the physically handicapped were considered in the design. George Potter and his wife Laurie were advocates for the disabled. In an oral history, Laurie attributes George's concern for the handicapped to the first 2 years of his life, when he spent them in a hospital to correct 2 club feet. In a paper that they presented together in 1976, they said that the core buildings had accessible toilet rooms, but the facilities were not totally adequate until the gymnasium was constructed in 1975. For years afterward, the senior staff of the college had a day each year when they navigated in wheelchairs to check on accessibility. For Henry Bischoff's book at the 25th anniversary, President Potter was quoted as saying of the reflective glass and non-operable windows that looking back at that moment with hindsight, I wish we had decided otherwise. He also questioned the judgment to go with fast track because the buildings were difficult to heat and cool, the partitions were not really soundproof, and the partition layouts were less flexible and more costly to modify. Over the years, as part of maintenance programs, the buildings were modified to improve conditions. And then in 2007, major renovations designed and supervised by SNS architects and engineers who designed and supervised the construction of the Anisfield School of Business corrected some of the perceived problems. Classroom spaces were moved to exterior walls facing the groves, and offices were relocated. The soundproof problem was ameliorated. Conference spaces were added. The Student Life building was essential to the early phases of development. It was completed at the same time as H-Wing in 1973. It contained 26,750 square feet on 2 levels connected to the academic core by a corridor at the 2nd floor. Mahoney and Zavozek were the designers. The Student Life building contained the cafeteria, the bookstore, and office and recreation areas. Because the legal drinking age was 18 in New Jersey then, the Student Life building had a pub, upper right, at which alcohol beverages were served. This was eliminated in 1985 after the drinking age was raised in 1980, and it became necessary to build dining facilities for Pine Hall and other planned residents. And I might say that we're indebted to these pictures by Vince Marchese, a noted photographer from the first class of Ramapo. He's provided us with these wonderful pictures. In the early days, the Fishbowl, or the knuckle in the corner of the academic wings, was the place for students to gather for rallies and large meetings. And you have to remember that this is the early 70s, and you can see a huge crowd of people in the Fishbowl. The Student Life building was a place for all sorts of student gatherings and absolutely essential to many commuter students. As the need for meeting spaces grew, the Student Center was expanded in the Scott years to relocate the bookstore to its present place, to create Friends Hall for large gatherings, and to provide student activity offices. The Student Center was modified again in Dr. Scott's time by adding a larger space to the back end of the bookstore and the alumni lounge meeting rooms. As part of its contract for food services, the dining facilities were modified by the contractor over the years to make them appetizing places for many varieties of food. When President Scott moved on to become the president of Adelphi University, the Student Center was named for him after his last graduation ceremony. The H building was also opened in 1972, and it too used system building design. It contained 26,750 square feet, a 289 square foot seat auditorium, International Telecommunications Center, audiovisual suites, classrooms, and faculty offices. And thanks to Vince again, here's a picture of the college as H-Wing was being built. It was designed by Haynes Lundberg Whaler, a New York firm with an office at Basking Ridge. The principals were involved as designers of federal government buildings and the campus of Stony Brook University on Long Island. Interestingly, they were later the architects for the Jaguar corporate headquarters that used to be on MacArthur Boulevard here in Mahwah. During the program phase, board members questioned the need for the 289-seat auditorium because the educational philosophy of the college did not contemplate large lecture courses. The architects and President Potter convinced the board otherwise. The auditorium became the venue for the popular master lecture series in which the college attracted prestigious, sometimes world-class lecturers on interdisciplinary subjects. Many musical, theatrical, and other performances were held there, but it was not convenient to the main parking fields for the public. The original auditorium is shown at the top, and it has been renovated, and today it is promoted to outside groups by the Division of Events and Conferences. The G building contains the School of Social Sciences and Human Services and the School of Theoretical and Applied Sciences. It contained 101,980 square feet in 4 stories and was designed by Mahoney and Zvozek. It contained classrooms, multi-purpose laboratories, computer labs, and faculty and staff offices. The staff had the final say on the design of this building, but Eddie Safe remembers meeting John Zvozek and expressing faculty considerations that were primarily communicated to the state's designers through Ray Panatti, the college's director of development, during the period of the development of the entire core. The building had a greenhouse on the roof that was distinctive from Route 202. Eddie also remembers having his office underneath the greenhouse and experiencing leaking moisture from the humidity-filled bubble that a greenhouse is. The labs met the then current safety requirements and were much safer than the small labs originally built in the E-Wing. During the Mercer years, the entire G-Wing was upgraded. The building designers were the New York firm Mitchell Jergula, who also designed the Adler Center. Corridors, conference rooms, and some of the labs had marvelous views of the mountains. Safety was a state of art for all labs, and all opportunities were taken to provide storage for the specimens, equipment, and chemicals needed for 21st century science. Along with Adler, these renovations received an award from the Society of American Registered Architects in 2018. The Physical Education Building, located near to Route 202 and across the highway from the athletic fields and tennis courts, was completed in 1975. The building was designed by Mahoney, Zvozek, and Sasaki, who got a Steel Industry Award for it. The building contained 37,950 square feet and included a gym with some spectator seating, a pool, a fitness area, and locker rooms. Bill Bradley, while he was still a Nick, spoke at the dedication. The gym space was sometimes used as a performance venue with community participation. I remember first hearing the Canadian Brass there. The pool has been used for years by the Bergen Barracudas, a Bergen County-wide youth swim team. The library, again designed by Mahoney Zvozek, was completed in 1977. Containing 63,520 square feet, it housed the college's resource material collection, as well as an art gallery, the Center for Holocaust Studies, computer centers, and study spaces. The building again received several awards for its design and engineering. It is currently being transformed as part of the new Learning Commons, which we'll talk about later. Now I'm going to switch to talking about the residence halls. Niche.com has declared the residence halls of the college to be the best in New Jersey. The story of the residence halls is a story of evolution. In the 1890s, Louis Sullivan, architect in Chicago, coined the phrase form follows function. This is particularly evident in the design of the residence halls. Student needs and desires have changed over the years. There has been a conscious attempt by the college and its designers to make residential facilities that are responsive to this. In the first College Park apartments, students had no meal plan, so had to cook in their apartments or use the cafeteria in the student center. They probably came to the college with only their own clock radio and a small personal TV. 4 of them shared a bathroom and a small sitting area. There were no common areas for the residents. Today, students come to school with computers, phones, tablets, Game Boys, TVs, and all sorts of other electronics. They like more privacy, so there are some residences in which a bathroom is shared by only 2 students. There are many single bedrooms in some of the residences. Most of them have meal plans that lets them eat at many different venues and have a greater selection of food types. There are all sorts of common areas, lounges, pool tables, meeting rooms, and even a movie theater. The college's first venture into residential facilities was the Phase 1 College Park Apartments. Phase 1 began in late 1979 and was completed in December 1972. Following the original master plan, parking is located near to the units rather than in the main parking fields. They were modular structures, the same as those built at Stockton, and the supervising architect was the Hillier Group of Princeton. Because of the bankruptcy of the builder, the modules could not be put in place for several months, and some of the modules became damaged by the weather. This is one project that was not finished on time or within the budget. The buildings were 2 stories high. Each building contained 8 flats having 2 bedrooms, a minimal kitchen, a common area, and a bathroom. They accommodated 4 students each. A tradition developed to name facilities after trees. The College Park apartments assumed that students were ready for independent living and would know how to take care of themselves and their housing. There was no meal plan for students. These were probably dubious assumptions about 18-year-olds who were probably living away from home for the first time. Maintenance problems resulted, and this was a lesson for future development of residence halls. In the Mercer era, all of the Phase 2 College Park apartments had been renovated. The architects for that project was Steve Coppa, who also designed Bischoff and Mackin. The original flat roofs have been replaced by sloping roofs so that the second floor apartments have more open space. The updated bathrooms included showers without bathtubs. Temperature control has been approved and students are still not required to have a meal plan. Phase 2 apartments were designed by Nadasky Kopelson from its Mendham office. They were built in 1974, and that firm was quite new at the time, but it went on to do major work for New Jersey colleges, including Kane, NJIT, Rutgers, William Patterson, and Mars Community College. The picture on the left is not what the Phase 2 buildings look like when they were built, but rather in 1999, when the facilities report was done, recommending their renovation. Each of the 5 3-story buildings contained 16 apartments, 8 one-bedroom units on the ground floor, 8 two-bedroom duplex units on the second floor extending to the third. George and Laurie Potter reported in their 1976 paper that some of the residential buildings in the College Park apartments had accessible first-floor ramped apartments for handicapped students. They regretted that they had not ramped all of them to be accessible so that handicapped students could visit the rooms of at least some of their friends. The picture on the right shows a remarkable makeover designed by Steve Coppa in the Mercer years. In 1979, the college built the lodge near the College Park apartments. It originally contained accessible units for handicapped students. A laundry building was also built. Over the years, the lodge has been converted for use as a fitness room and for other student life functions, handicapped students can now live all over the campus. No major construction was done between 1979 and 1984 when George Potter left the presidency and became a member of the faculty, but planning occurred. Chancellor Hollander held up the Board of Higher Education approval in a dispute with President Potter about the financial plan and direction of the college. When it became known that Potter would soon step down as president, the approval was forthcoming. The architect was Scramenti, Shire, Spinelli, Parentoni of Somerville, and not much is known about them. All contracting was done by the state. In the planning process, members of the college community, including Mike Edelstein, encouraged environmentally friendly construction. The environmentalists were successful in having a tram wall built for the heating system, but were not successful in getting a geothermal pond. Remember, this is 1985. A tram wall heating system is mounted on the south walls of the building. The sun heats air in the tram wall for circulation within the building, but the HVAC engineering of the building was less than optimal. And after about 2 years of attempting to fiddle with a tram wall system, a conventional gas heating system was installed. Pine Hall was completed in 1985. The building was 5 stories high and contained 79,500 square feet. The suites contained 3 double rooms and a sitting area with 6 students sharing a bathroom. There were some open lounges, but they were not well used. Parking for Pine and later Linden was located in main parking lots. These were the first units in which students were required to have a meal plan for use at the Student Center. Today, it is a home to 340 first-year students. There are 2 lounges on each floor that are equipped with pool tables and arcade games. Up to you, Dick.
Linden Residence Hall was the first one built under college autonomy and the first one overseen by me. The architects were the Hilliard Group of Princeton. The firm was founded in 1966 and did extensive work around the state and internationally. Dennis Wyckoff of the Hilliard Group was the principal of that firm for Linden and was often chosen by me to be a consulting architect on other buildings. The autonomy granted to colleges by the state was an important step in allowing us to build facilities that were responsive to student needs. For each new building, we consulted students, faculty, and staff of the college to interview architects, establish the program, and review the details. Nancy Mackin, the Dean of Students, and I worked with the residence life staff and the architects. The visioning input from students on Linden revealed that they wanted more space that they had in Pine. No bunk beds, public common areas, public common rooms separated from the living rooms. These units had 2 double bedrooms separated by what is known as a Jack and Jill bathroom. It has 2 doors that can be accessed from either bedroom. Each bedroom opened into the hallway, but the bathroom did not. Until the problem of unintentional lockouts was resolved, there was some inconvenience. There was a very large room on the first floor used for many things, including college events. Linden housed about 250 students, and they were required to have a meal plan. For the past 2 years, Linden has housed the Potter Library while the Learning Commons is being built.
Bischoff and Mackin.
Excuse me, Tom. Tom,
Yes.
This is Bob Scott. Our experience with Pine Hall construction resulted in an initiative to change the state law regarding construction at the state colleges so that we did not have to accept the lowest bidder, which for Pine Hall was a paving contractor, but we had to have the lowest responsible bidder, someone who had appropriate experience.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bischoff and Mackin originally oak and maple, were designed by Camara Coppa Architects, and the partner in charge was Steve Coppa. The firm had a large number of projects in Passaic County. The buildings were sited to preserve the green view of the college from Ramapo Valley Road. Each building contains about 53,000 square feet, and they are 5 stories high. Local parking is provided for students. Each houses about 250 students. Responding to the student desires for more privacy and space for their electronics and other gear, the student rooms in Bischoff and Mackin have a large bedroom for 2 students and a private bath. Each floor contains a common lounge with a flat screen TV. There is a state-of-the-art gaming equipment on the 4th floor, and all students are required to have a meal plan. First-year students commonly live in these buildings. The existing dining facilities at the Student Center were not large enough to accommodate 500 more students. So the nearby Trustees Pavilion was built. Designed again by Camara Coppa, it contains a large dining room with varied types of food and a convenience store. The volleyball court outside the pavilion is in constant use. In response to a great all-college need, the building contains a large divisible meeting room that is used for all sorts of meetings, lectures, banquets, and other events.
The Village Apartments were opened in 2002. There are 22 3-story buildings housing about 520 students. In these apartments, each of the students has a private bedroom. There are 4 single bedrooms, a large bath, a kitchen, and a dining/living room. Kitchen with counter seating connected to the living room. These are occupied by seniors who need not have a meal plan, and alcohol use is permitted under college guidelines. The Thomas's Commons is the area's central building and community gathering spot. It contains the area office, laundry room, student mailboxes, vending machines, ping pong table, and a lounge with a cozy fireplace. There is outdoor seating around each quad and a barbecue area. The apartments in the village and the College Park apartments are available for selection by Ramapo College's Sustainable Living Experience Program. We launched in the spring of 2017. That project aims to engage undergraduate students in promoting green lifestyles and in taking leadership roles for sustainability action on campus. During the construction of the village apartments, we became painfully aware of the state's wetland regulations that hadn't come into effect until 1987. Much of the steeply sloped areas of the college property are now delineated as wetlands, and development is restricted. The sighting of a wood turtle, an endangered species in the vicinity, made them special resource wetlands. Through the work of our environmental consultant, George White, we got permission to use some wetlands buffer areas by improving some parkland areas in the township of West Milford. We were able to move forward with the village project. The Overlook was completed in 2004. It was designed by PSMS Integrated Services, a Warren, New Jersey firm. The design, 2 interlocking massive walls, 1 concrete and 1 glass, shows the influence of the famous architect Louis Kahn. Frank Sabori, the designer of Overlook, was Kahn's student at the University of Pennsylvania and worked for him for some years. The brutalist style is evident in not only the exterior, but the interior unfinished concrete hallways. The Overlook houses 295 students and contains 4-person suites containing 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a sitting room. It has generous lounge and recreation facilities, and the common lounges on each floor at the west end have spectacular views of Cameron Pond, the campus, and the mountains. Overlook has easy access to the Student Center and Trustee Pavilion dining for students who must have a meal plan. It also has on-site parking. It was fortunate that the college and its environmental faculty were able to get the state to install a sound wall along Route 287, which opened after 40 years of struggle in 1993. Overlook is close to the highway, but it's protected by the sound wall. Wetlands and stormwater management regulation affected the design and surroundings for Overlook. The pedestrian bridges connecting Overlook to the H building are ways we found to improve pedestrian access and to limit disturbance to wetlands. The dredging of Cameron Pond was an important part of the water quality management plan for the building.
Laurel Hall was opened in 2006. It is a 432-bed suite-style residence. Each suite contains 4 single bedrooms, a bathroom with stall shower, and small common areas. It has generous lounges, recreation areas, and even a screening room, also known as a movie theater. Laurel completes a quadrangle with Pine and Linden that offers basketball courts and recreation areas as well as seating. It has become a center of outdoor student activities. 2 of the floors have alcohol use rooms and the rest are dry. So that ends the discussion of the residence hall. And now before we move to more recent academic buildings, we need to briefly discuss a very important topic, money. The Berry Center was the first college building to have philanthropy as a major source of its funding. Philanthropy has since become very important to the growth of the college architecture. The academic buildings in the early academic core were built with state bond referendums in 1968, 1971. Those bonds are supported by the full faith and credit of all state taxpayers. In other words, all state taxpayers are paying for those buildings. The residence halls and the associated dining facilities and student life building were built with local bonding, meaning that they are the obligations only of the college and supported by revenues, tuition, and fees. But since the Berry Center, most buildings have required a combination of state bonding, local bonding, and philanthropy. Under George Potter, the college created a foundation to encourage philanthropy. When President Scott came to the college, he expanded those efforts greatly and reorganized the College Office of Institutional Advancement. In 1993, the college and the foundation hired Kathy Davey to be the vice president for institutional advancement and the executive director of the College Foundation. She had experience in raising major funds for Seton Hall before she came to Ramapo. A state bond issue provided a $6 million challenge grant, but to get the money, Ramapo had to raise $3 million. With the support of many individuals and corporate donors and the lead gift by Russ and Angelica Berry, a $10 million capital campaign raised the college's $3 million and more. And in fact, the capital campaign went on to raise $18 million. In an oral history, President Scott describes his meeting with Russ Berry. Scott told Berry that he needed to raise $3 million and he knew where he was going to get the first million and the last million, but sought Berry's advice as to how to get the rest. Berry said, quote, "Are you asking for $1 million?" Scott said, "Yes, and the rest is history." Many other campaigns followed for building resources, including the one currently underway for the Learning Commons. If you hear the name of a building or separate parts of the building named for a person or company, you can be sure that philanthropy was a major part of its financing. The Angelica and Russ Berry Center for Performing and Visual Arts was opened in 1999. Designed by Malcolm Holtzman, then of the firm Hardy, Holtzman and Pfeiffer, a firm that has designed many renovations for theaters in New York City. Holtzman eschews labels, but his creations are usually colorful and eclectic. The center has become a performing arts venue for Northwest Bergen County, with the Sharps Theater, a 325-seat hall having a fully equipped stage and wonderful acoustics, and the Myron and Elaine Adler Black Box Theater is a venue for student experimentation and performing arts. The postmodern wing of the Berry Center hosts the School of Contemporary Arts, the Les Paul Studio for music recording and sound design, painting and drawing labs, the photo studio, the Pascal and Kresge galleries, and many other classrooms and studios are used by undergraduate students and the newly created Master of Fine Arts graduate program. Opened in September 2004, the Bill Bradley Sports and Recreation Center is a 110,000 square foot, student-oriented, multi-purpose facility serving the recreational and intercollegiate athletic needs of the college. It was designed by GBQC of Philadelphia. The reflective glass walls of its atrium carry forward the theme created by the glass walls of the academic core. Bradley features a 2,200-seat arena, fitness center, track, dance aerobic studios, and a rock climbing wall designed to simulate the natural topography of the neighboring Ramapo Mountain terrain. The arena can accompany large events such as convocation, and its lobby is also used for large receptions and parties. The gym from the original building is an auxiliary gym for intramurals and other activities and contains a track. The original pool has been refurbished. Many of the spaces in each building are named for generous donors. The Anisfield School of Business opened in September 2007. It was designed by SNS Associates, a Montvale firm. Again, the reflective glass has been the college theme since 1971. The lead gifts for this school came from Richard and Millicent Anisfield and their family. They not only endowed the building, but also a faculty position in several other programs. The building also contains the Ramapo Center for the International Studies. Again, the reflective glass carries forward the college's theme. The building has a two-tiered auditoriums, projecting rooms, breakout rooms, specialized office suites, faculty offices, traditional and smart classrooms, computer labs, and the International Global Trading Lab, which simulates the New York Stock Exchange.
Beginning in 1975, students and faculty under the direction of Professors Makovsky and Edelstein built an alternate energy and environment center complex near the parking lots in response to the energy crisis. This center was reflective of the freedom given to faculty in the early days to do experimental things. Built and expanded by staff and students, the center included a solar-heated classroom, a greenhouse, a windmill, composting and recycling facilities, and exhibit spaces designed to demonstrate alternative methods of producing and using renewable resources. This complex was removed around 2000 to make way for the village student apartments. The Sharp Sustainability Center was built in 2008 with a generous donation from Sharp Electronics. It was designed by Stephen Tilley from Dobbs Ferry, New York, and it received an award from the Westchester County AIA chapter. The 2,200 square foot center demonstrates sustainable processes and technologies to students and to the local community. Solar panels supply 80% of the building's total energy use. No fossil fuels are used on site. Geo-exchange heating and cooling, daylighting, waterless urinals, and energy-thrifty building materials serve an instructional room, office, and gallery. Outside, an organic garden shares space with a rain garden, evergreen windbreak, wind turbine, fruit trees, campus tree farm, and an organic vegetable garden. Beehives are coordinated by the Northeast New Jersey Beekeepers Association.
In November 2010, Myron and Elaine Adler made a $2 million gift to name the Adler Center for Nursing Excellence. Designed by the firm of Mitchell Gurgula of New York, it contains 36,000 square feet and, among other things, features 3 simulation rooms where students learn to address emergencies involving their computer simulated patients. It is connected by a sky bridge to the completely renovated G-Wing, and it was opened in 2015 and serves the burgeoning undergraduate and master's programs of the nursing school. In June 2016, the college received $15 million from the state of New Jersey Higher Education Capital Facilities Program to completely renovate the George T. Potter Library and create a new learning commons. It is currently well underway in its capital campaign to raise an additional $15 million with Susan and Nick Valario as the lead donors. The balance of the $45 million will be paid by college debt. In all, the building will contain 80,000 square feet and will be a vibrant knowledge commons that will enable students to learn and study more effectively by incorporating new technologies and methods of creating scholarship. In addition to several new conference rooms and 2 informal informational literacy classrooms, the library will add over 20 technology-rich group study rooms to be used for screening films, conducting group presentations, one-button studio recording, video conferences, and remote learning. Since library users are often immersed in their work for hours on end, a wide variety of comfortable seating options will address user preferences for lounge, study, and computer-intensive activity. The almost 50-year-old mechanical infrastructure of the building will be completely renovated. Over the circulation desk as you enter the library, there will be a large sign that says George T. Potter Library. It is expected, this facility is expected to be open in September 2001. And I think most of you have read that the Commons itself is named after Peter T. Mercer. We're going to take a detour into looking at some of the sculpture on campus, and then we'll come back with the last slides about the 2013 master plan. So Dick, take it away.
Okay, in addition to the beautiful buildings and surroundings, the college is fortunate to have wonderful artwork around the campus. This one that we're looking at right now is entitled "One Man in Memory of 6 Million," done by Judith Peck. It was installed in 1973. A member of the faculty, Judith says that this homage to the victims of the Holocaust is meant to remind students of that awful time and to inspire them to do better. Loaned by Judith to the college in 1973, it was purchased by a benefactor, Yvonne Lorber, in 2012 and donated to the college for its permanent collection.
Pardon me.
At the time of the construction of the physical education building in 1975, stainless grill was donated by J. Seward Johnson Jr., grandson of the founder of Johnson & Johnson, and used of the grounds for sculpture in Ewing Township. It was placed near the academic wing. The Bradley Sports and Recreation Center was the first building on campus to benefit from the Fine Arts Inclusion Act that encourages the purchase of art in public spaces in state government buildings. The college staff and fine arts faculty have worked with the State Council on the Arts to commission works of art that complement new buildings. Sculptor Alice Aycock's work, Star Sifter Galaxy, hangs in the main lobby. It is 8 feet in diameter and 30 feet long, fabricated from aluminum thermoformed plexiglass and neon. It exudes color and energy, and is especially dramatic when viewed at night. Aycock's work can be seen at Storm King Art Center and other places around the country. Viewport by sculptor R.N. Fisher is a sculptural invention that is attached to the exterior of the Annisfield School of Business. It is a stainless steel framework covered with aluminum panels painted bright yellow. At the bottom is a triangular red lens, at the other a viewing window. The work metaphorically celebrates the connection between mankind and the environment. Mr. Fisher's work can be seen at the Newark Museum and many other museum and public art installations around the world. Male and female torsos, bronze sculptures by Ned Smythe have been installed adjacent to the Adler Center. For his large-scale public commissions, Smythe has collected and cataloged stones broken from mountains, carried by glaciers, and dropped at glacial moraines and smoothed by tides and sand. He scans them to make 3D models and casts them in bronze. The Salamino Spiritual Center is a non-denominational sanctuary for reflection, meditation, and dialogue, but it is also a form of sculpture. On the banks of Cameron Pond, Professor Emeritus Anthony P. Padovano encouraged this use, and it was made possible by the generous donations of Anthony and Teresa and many other individuals and businesses. The designer was Malcolm Holzman, the architect for the Berry Center. And of course, students can study sculpture in the Contemporary Art Sculpture Studio that was moved to the former sewage treatment plant near the athletic fields when the Berry Center was built. In 2012 and 2013, with Urban Strategies as its consultant, the college prepared the latest campus facilities master plan. Urban Strategies is a global consulting firm based in Toronto. Most of their projects have been in Canada, but they have done master plans for Princeton, Cornell, the University of Minnesota, and Singapore. They plan based on 3 growth scenarios: the 2013 enrollment, future moderate growth, and future high growth. They recommended 5 possible new capital projects, or what they termed initiatives. The Heart of Campus initiative at the knuckle of the Phase 1 academic building would reinforce and expand campus life functions. It would add a story to the existing buildings to consolidate existing dining, bookstore, and student operations with new areas for student service, social, and study uses. The view from the existing knuckle to the Padovano Commons and Cameron Pond would be enhanced. The second recommended initiative envisioned 2 options for a new administrative/welcome center. One at the main entrance to the campus as an extension of E-Wing, or an optional one near the McBride House in the security booth. The planners considered the lack of such space a missing element of the campus and a way to reconfigure some of E-Wing for classrooms. This initiative would provide a ceremonial front door for future students and visitors. The third suggested initiative is now the Mercer Learning Commons under construction that renews, expands, and transforms the Potter Library into a 21st century space with technology, collaborative spaces, and more. A fourth proposed initiative would involve a new academic building south of the Learning Commons that would be close to the Berry Center and main south parking lot field. It would accommodate space for conferences and a large assembly hall of 1,200 seats. The fifth and final initiative would involve new academic buildings at the northern edge of the main parking lots, with new multi-story parking structures compensating for the loss of on-grade parking displaced by the new buildings. Surely incoming President Cindy Jebb, the board, and the foundation will have some intelligent and exciting choices to continue the architectural tradition of the college.
And now, as our program ends, we hope that we will reinforce your views of the beauty of the college with this drone video.
Ramapo